And more so, it's based on some things that have been talked about before. Like we talked about this before, it's about two aspects out of the three that you need to correct or have on point when it comes to this game. You've got three things: you've got fielding, you've got batting, and you've got bowling. If you rely on one out of those three, you're going to make it difficult for yourself to win many international games. And it doesn't make it easy then, right? It doesn't, because it makes it a little bit more tough, and it did for us. The men in green did really well as far as the bowling department is concerned, but once again, which has happened on some occasions in the past, actually, that would be a little bit of a lenient statement to make. It has happened on a lot of occasions in the past. It dropped a few of those catches actually that made it slightly a bit more difficult for the team to be able to make a comeback in this situation. It's tough, isn't it? Because at that point, if you're bowling so well, if you're creating so many chances, so many opportunities for your bowlers to be able to pick up those wickets, you need to grasp all those opportunities. This 140 could have easily been a much lower total as far as the Australian department is concerned. And yes, there were difficult playing conditions at the SCG today. And because of those conditions, you might have thought to yourself that if this score was about 20 to 30 runs less, and that would have been possible, perhaps even more, if we were able to take all those catches that gave themselves or presented themselves in terms of opportunities. Fair enough, there were some catches that were dropped by, of course, Australia as well. But at the end of the day, if you look at the way things went, there was much more problematic fielding on our end of the spectrum than it was with the Aussies. And the reason for that is stretches back to some similar points that we've talked about before. You need two things to be absolutely in the clear when you're going out. The Aussies went in and they said, look, we're going to come in and we're going to attack. We're going to lash out. We're going to go for those 20 overs. We're going to hit the ball as much as we can. We're going to try to get those runs. We're going to push for those runs, because that's how T20 works. It has become cannon fodder, and it was cannon fodder even before. If you come back and you look at that game between India and South Africa that just recently took place, right? It is the fact of the matter that at that point, if you're dropping that many catches, still ending up with a score of 140 to chase down shows how well you bowled, how strong that one aspect is out of the three to be able to put pressure on the opposing team. And just if you have that one thing, just imagine if you had one more little element, if you had your fielding in the right point, if you had your batting in the right point, and you had two things to play for, two strengths out of those three, that's all you need to be able to become that quality team that is going to push things a little bit through. But that was the problem. We weren't able to do that today at all. You saw some glimpses of good performances in the batting. Usman Khan batted so well, getting those many runs on the board. Towards the very end, you were able to see some quality batting as well from Irfan Khan, who was able to really try to push things. And you needed that, right? Because you needed that in that situation. One would think that if Ellis was going to have his last over, that would have given Pakistan a little bit more of a hope, because he was the bowler against who of course, at this point, Irfan Khan was very comfortable batting against. So you would have thought, okay, maybe that would have created an opportunity for Pakistan to be able to get over the line. But it didn't happen, right? And it didn't happen because the point of the matter is there were not enough runs scored by the upper order, because it is not the job of the tailenders to seal the game through. It is the job of the batsmen who are coming from the very start, going into chasing, which again is not a big total, but at the same time, if the conditions are so difficult, you need at that point for those anchors to come along to be able to push towards the 140. And if even that 140 proves to be difficult because of how unplayable a scenario is, then at that point you need something right in your team. So what are you going to go for? You're going to turn to some power hitters. Saim Ayub is not playing in this team. Fakhar Zaman has had some difficulties with the board in recent times, so I get that he's not in the team. I hope that in any situation where you bring forth new talent, you need new talent in the team. I'm not saying go back and turn back to Fakhar and bring Fakhar Zaman back into the team, or just try to. Of course, Saim Ayub would definitely should be someone who should have been given an opportunity in this T20 series. It's about the ability for those powerhouse batsmen to come through. You need at least maybe two or three powerhouse batsmen. You need those power hitters in your team. And it is because of the lack of power hitters, you are not able to close that gap where you need extra runs at a certain point. You can't rely on edges to flow to the boundary. I mean, sure, you get those runs in the depth overs and they do leak here or there, but you have to be smarter than that and understand that you need those power hitters in the team. If you don't have them, it makes it difficult. It will make it difficult. And that is the struggle where Pakistan should not be turning to their old guns to try to execute some power. Because Saim Ayub is sort of a tested formula in the past when it comes to T20 cricket. Granted, he hasn't played much cricket as of yet, and over time we'll be able to see where he stands in terms of his ability to be able to push through, to get more runs and showcase more consistency and more maturity as well as temperament as he grows and becomes a cricketer or a proper international cricketer for that matter, who I hope will be able to establish a good reputation as a Pakistani cricketer over time. But the thing is, right now, you need to turn to what you have in your talent pool and find those power hitters. There are power hitters. There are names that were being discussed. Tayyib Tahir was one of those names that was being discussed. There are other names that come into your mind. There's something at the domestic level. Try to extract it out. Not bring individuals who are above the ages of 30 or 31 or 32, but in the younger scales who are trying to really fight their way through. Find some power hitters who are going to be able to form the crux of your team. You might lose some matches along the way, which is okay, but if the intent is there, the country will be forgiven because the intent shows the ability to try. Okay, if the problems are obvious on the front, if you can see that, okay, XYZ is not working, and then those problems are being exposed again and again and again, there will be frustration because on the basis of that frustration, that frustration is based on is that there is no correction. You need to correct things. And if you're not trying to, if you're not executing that accordingly or adjusting your formula, looking at different perspectives about how to tackle a problematic situation, how are you going to win? How are you going to make it through? You have to be able to do that. But that's beside the point, I guess, at this point. I mean, if you take a look at it right now, right? The way the Indian team batted against South Africa the other day. I mean, Tilak Verma coming in, batting phenomenally well. Sanju Samson, mind you, is an individual who has fared over the IPL for so long over time and has finally been groomed into that talent to be sent into the international platform and to bat the way he did. And they really attacked it through. I'm not saying that in these conditions, a 283 would have been possible on the SCG. But what I'm trying to say at this point is the intent to fight or try to assert that dominance as a cricketing nation. That is something that has been able, can only be showing if you're trying to let those newcomers come through, and those newcomers are going to try to take things away. You're not thinking about Rohit or Virat when it comes to the T20 lineup of India anymore, because you've got new players that they've been able to groom and bring forth into that lineup that are going to fight and try to showcase their ability. So that is the only problem. That's what you see here psychologically right now as Pakistani cricket fans. Your mind gets tempted to think about the Fakhar Zaman scenario, to think about previous hitters such as Asif Ali. But if you continuously recycle, you will not be in a situation to generate new talent. You need to generate new talent that is going to showcase these performances. You found some quality spinners in the lineup against England in those last two matches because you were able to find new faces to be able to go along that were able to groom themselves through. Now, of course, at this point, that is something that needs to be explored as far as the T20 aspect of things is concerned. And mind you, this does not only stretch in T20 cricket, it stretches in ODI cricket as well. Because in all forms of white ball cricket, currently power hitting is a high requirement. It has been showcased in terms of the way countries have performed, particularly in the last ODI World Cup in India. And it has been showcased even before that with the modern day cricket style going towards that. England were a team who were just going at it from ball one, and there were expectations of a 500 total being scored maybe in the 2019 ODI World Cup. We still haven't gotten to that, but you understand what I'm trying to say is that power hitting is something that is needed in both scenarios. So if you try to generate that somehow, if you try to bring that into the fold somehow, you give yourself an opportunity. So you need to look for talent like that. Should be the prime priority of the board right now. I understand there are a lot of difficulties surrounding the Champions Trophy situation right now with hosting and the problems that are arising between the BCCI and the PCB and the ICC. And there's a lot that the PCB already has on its plate. But I will say this again, and I know a lot of individuals have said this before, a lot of cricket fans have said this before, a lot of cricket experts have said this before. If you start winning, if you start showcasing the ability to be a much stronger team, to really break through to that top three, England, Australia, India rank, to become that solid fourth team, like a South Africa level unit, or even more, like just something stronger, something that everyone would want to come up against, play against. That is something that is going to completely turn psychological perspective in all assets in your favor. So the focus needs to be on building a stronger team that is able to win in high pressure situations and high voltage matches against quality opposition to showcase that they can shine through. Go into the Australia. You see how you went about the ODI series? Try to execute that more so. Go into other countries, try to fight for more runs and get more scores and try to win those matches. Bring things into your realm, because then I will assure you at that point the psychological the support or the psychological attention will completely transition towards the men in green. And maybe, of course, for the other teams as well. But what I'm trying to showcase is that you need to play seriously to be taken seriously. It's as simple as that. And that's all I can say about that.